What's going on, Kat?
Oh, I'm doing pretty great. How about you?
I was really excited for today, and I cannot wait to hear everything because we talked like months ago, and you were in a total different season of your life, and now you're glowing. You are in a different path, and we have been putting off this conversation for a long time, not because we didn't want to do it, but because now it's the time.
Yes.
And I think everything happens for a reason, and everything, the time is perfect whenever it comes, right? So I cannot wait for you to share. So today, the goals are we're going to be sharing Kat's story, what has happened in the past few months, that her journey, and then we're gonna talk about, she is a advocate for polyamorous relationships, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about her future and how she is going to carry us into some sort of education, which I am not going to drop the mic because that's her thing to do. But I want her to tell us everything that we need to know and how she's going to help us women in the future with, certain aspects of our life. So, Kat, tell us.
Well,
what happened?
I just want to say, you have to be careful with me these days when you say, tell me everything.
Yeah, because not everything that you want to share that is not going to get us blacklisted.
Right. I am an open book now to an extreme degree, but there's a lot of freedom in that. But just to give some listeners some background, when you and I had initially planned this conversation, it was really more about a why. It started around a curiosity about my polyamorous relationships. And polyamory is something that I have become more vocal about in the past few years. My husband and I do have a polyamorous relationship, and to clarify things for people that might not understand terminology, polyamory is not the same thing as polygamy. Polygamy is multiple marriages, and it's also not the same as swingers, which, again, no shame. I'm not yucking anyone's yum.
Oh, we're not judging nobody. I'm right. Going to be just learning, because all this realm of things is new to me, right? Mm-hmm. So I am the ignorant in this conversation, and I have so many questions.
And I love that. I love the curiosity. Polyamory is really about the celebration and creating that space for multiple relationships, loving relationships. And that can look a lot of different ways. Everybody's going to have their relationship structure built upon what works for the people within that relationship. I think for me personally, and I also want to say, I'm not saying that monogamy is bad. I am not one of those people that are going to be like, everybody should be polyamorous. It's the better way to be.
Right.
No.
Right.
Not at all.
We all have our own beliefs, and that's okay.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. But it is important for me to understand. It is important for me to help people understand that monogamy is not the only way. Mm-hmm. Too many of us, our society lets people believe that monogamy is the only thing. We have our one true love, our one happily ever after. And that mindset leads to a lot of resentment in relationships, leads to a lot of infidelity, a lot of insecurities. So a lot of my advocacy around polyamory has been more just about normalizing it, letting people know that one and one is not the only way to be.
Yeah.
And really just celebrating love in all forms, whatever that looks like. So that's kind of how I started becoming more vocal about it. And what I found is that I would get so many messages from Instagram from other people, even within the insurance industry, wanting to understand more, people understanding some of their struggles or some of the things that maybe they have tried to do in their relationships and have not worked out well. So I will say polyamory is a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people think, oh, it's a hall pass. It's free cheating.
Yeah.
No. It's a lot of hard work, but it can be
So
very worth it.
so like I'm curious, right? Because ignorant as I am in regards of all this, you just mentioned, there is a lot of resentment that leads to infidelity and other things, right? So how is it polyamory not different from infidelity if you are experiencing different relationships at the same time?
So it does require a lot of communication, and there's some different styles of polyamory. So I'll give you a little kind of rundown on some of those different styles. There is kitchen table polyamory, which I strive for. My husband and I strive for.
Okay.
Kitchen table polyamory is the idea that we are all family. My husband's girlfriend, I love her, and I just, and we all just do things together. We might not all be in romantic relationships with each other, but it's a friendly support system. There is what some people call cocktail party polyamory, which means, we're all not going to be best friends, but we can coexist in the same space and get along.
Okay.
There's also parallel dating, which is kind of like, all right, you have your relationships, I have mine, and we fill each other in on the important stuff, but we're not trying to all build friendships with one another. And then there's a don't ask, don't tell dynamic, which works for some people. I personally am not a fan of the don't ask, don't tell dynamic because I know for myself, I don't want anyone to ever question my integrity. I've been on dating apps, and I'll have a guy say, oh yes, I'm polyamorous as well. My wife just doesn't want to know anything. Nope, I'm not interested in that. Alarm bells go off for me. And so in fact, what's funny is some of the people, I've gone out on some dates over the past few years, and sometimes I might not hit it off well enough with a gentleman to pursue a relationship with, but because it's always been important for me to meet the wives, just to make sure everybody's on, I've become very good friends with the wives. And
that's different.
And there's also another term in polyamory that's important to understand. It's called a metamor. So your metamor, or sometimes people will say meta, is your partner's partner. So my husband's girlfriend, for instance, she and I don't have a romantic relationship, but she would be my metamor. Now, fortunately, she and I are such great friends that it's wonderful when you can have a great friendship with a metamor. And what I love about that is we are, because we both have a shared love, we're advocates for each other. We both want the best thing for our shared partner.
That person. Okay. Understood.
Yeah.
So with that controversial intro, right?
Yeah.
Let's back up a little bit. And how did we got here, right? And I know you had a drastic change in the past few months. So let's talk about that. So then we can continue with so everybody kind of understands where you're coming from and understand their story, right? Because the thing about topics like this is people is really, really quick to judge, the person. And I think it's important for everyone to understand, we pride ourselves on being a not judgment zones right here, right? So I don't agree, I don't disagree, you are just who you are, right? But I think people need to understand, why. Yeah. Why did she choose that path? Why did she get there? How? What happened? So take us a little bit back.
Okay. And so this, and this is interesting. There's a common debate on whether or not polyamory is an orientation or a lifestyle choice. For me personally, I feel like I cannot be any other way. But I heard a good therapist refer to it not necessarily as an orientation, but as a capacity. So my first real adult relationship was an open relationship, so for me, that just seemed very natural. Especially when there are things that in a traditional mononormative society, we have this idea that our partner, our spouse should be everything for us. They should be our lover. They should be our best friend. They should be our business partner and running the business of a household. They should be a co-parent. They should be our adventure buddy. And that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Well, they can say, just like my husband told me, you're not my best friend. I can never be your best friend.
Right. Exactly. And that's okay.
He can choose.
Right. And nobody should have to, I wouldn't expect somebody to meet all of those requirements for me.
Right.
And, I found that in my past attempts at monogamy, again, and I'm not knocking monogamy for anybody.
Yeah.
But I know for me, anytime I've tried monogamy before, it's always been built on a foundation of little white lies. So even if all of your actions and your behavior is above board and within the confines of your vows, there are always those little white lies. Oh no, I don't find my coworker attractive at all. Oh no, I don't have a crush on this person I see every day at the gym.
Yeah.
Oh no, I wasn't flirting with that waitress. And for me, I've never felt comfortable in that. My husband and I, we've always celebrated each other's autonomy. And he has also been in polyamorous relationships in the past. So we both kind of came into our relationship with an appreciation for the experiences and adventures that each other have had. I love it when we go out and he's turning on the charm and flirting with somebody. It's just fun for me to see. It's fun because people like to flirt. People want to feel seen. And it's good to make people smile. Flirting is not always about, oh, I'm going to get in your pants. Flirting is just, it's an exchange of fun, energy, good vibes, and that can be a spectrum on how intense that energy is.
I guess for some people, it makes them feel alive, right?
Yeah.
Like, I still attractive. What we hear the most is like, I still got it, right?
Exactly.
That's what most people say. Oh, I still got it.
Exactly. And there's also, so there's something, and I don't remember the psychologists who came up with this, but there's this color wheel theory of love. Okay. And you think about like the color wheel, and it's nothing's binary. It's not black or white. People aren't, things are not just platonic or romantic. Things can fall within a spectrum. And I'll give an example. I had, going to the gym every day, had this friend that I made over time. We're just always at the gym, and he was my little gym crush. And I would tell my husband, like, "Oh, saw my gym crush today," and made me work out a little bit harder. And he and I became such good friends. Would never want to date him, or, he and I would never pursue a relationship with each other. But my feelings for him became more than just platonic. But they're not quite romantic, not fully romantic either. It's in that gray zone. And you know what? It's okay to be in that gray zone. And I was able to say to him one day, I said, you know what, buddy? I love you. And even on the days that we don't talk, just on the days that I see you, it makes my day better. And being able to celebrate that. And I went home and I told my husband, I was like, hey, guess what? I told so-and-so that I loved him today. And it was really nice. And it was to be able to share that with my husband too. It was just such a wonderful moment. In previous relationships, you're always trying to do the right thing. And I remember having, when I was getting ready to marry my ex-husband, and I had a friend, longtime friend, that again, we had that kind of relationship that in between, just very intense love for each other. And I felt like, well, I want to do the right thing for my marriage. So let me kind of cut off this friendship because it would be inappropriate. Or I've heard the term emotional affair. Let me cut off this friendship because it's an emotional affair. And by cutting off my ability to love other people, it actually cut off my ability to love within my own marriage. And I don't want to shut that down anymore.
So my question is, does a polyamorous relationship has to have a sexual component?
Nope.
Does
Nope.
it?
Nope. It does not
Okay.
at all. There are some people, you look at the sexuality spectrum, and there are lots of people that are asexual. And, they can be in a loving companionate marriage with somebody. But let's say you've got two people that are married. They love each other so much and they're committed to each other, but maybe their sex drives are completely different. And then do you have somebody just go out and cheat, or they live in a marriage where that person is great in all other aspects, but now they have needs that are being unmet. So it doesn't always have to have a sexual component. In fact, I'll share with you a message that my husband had sent to someone recently, and I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this. And it made me think about...
Hopefully he's not watching.
Exactly. He's in the other room, so he's definitely listening. So do you remember when you're a kid and you get that little love note? Do you like me? Check yes or check no.
Yes, I remember that. I still was, that was for my time as well.
Yeah.
So,
and did you ever write a third box that said
no
maybe?
No phones, no beepers.
Exactly.
It was all the brown paper with the blue lines.
Yep.
And then they'll make it like a little fold. Yep. I do remember. Oh,
I know for me, I made a third box that said maybe. I don't know, because yes or no are such big things. But so there's a woman that my husband had been, friendly with, kind of flirting with. There's definitely some energy there, but also wanted to be very conscious of, where she was. So he sent her a note and said, hey, I want to be transparent. Here's a list of, what exactly are you looking for? No offense. I just want to know where you are. And it was a whole bulleted list. It said, just strictly platonic, friends with a little bit of flirting, friends with a lot of flirting, friends with flirting with the door open for something else, And
that was like a list of 10 things. Like that was like an intense list.
Right. But it was great because she was so appreciative. She goes, you know what? I want friends with flirting at this level. And it was great because it took off a lot of pressure, because then he doesn't have to worry about okay,
and trying to figure it out on your own.
She feels respected because her boundaries have been, there's not that weird, okay, where is this going to go? So again, for me, polyamory is just an embracing of all the different layers of relationships you can have with somebody. It doesn't have to be sexual all the time, but it's just celebrating that love in every form.
Yeah, no, that's really important to understand, right? Because everything, at least for those of us that have not been exposed to this specific type of relationship, those are the first questions that come to your mind, right? Like, oh my goodness, like how about this? How about that? How about all these other things that actually are a factor and create so much tension in between people, right? So evolving.
Yeah.
You decided to take this path and very captive about it because of the industry that we worked in. So
yeah,
few weeks ago. Oh my goodness.
I know. So I did find that one of the reasons why I started becoming more vocal about it online was mainly because I had started a relationship with somebody last year, and he and I are going out and traveling, and then my husband's developed a relationship, and mainly I didn't want anyone to see either of us out with someone else and think, oh my gosh, Kat's cheating on her husband, or oh my gosh, so I didn't want anyone to question it.
Yeah.
So that's why I started saying, hey, this is our lifestyle. There is intention, there is support here. So that's kind of how it started. And then had a lot of people reaching out and thanking me for sharing some of those things, but still within a professional realm, I felt like I gotta kind of keep this under wraps, because people make all sorts of assumptions. They go, oh, she's polyamorous, she must sleep around, or oh, she must do this. And it's hard when you have relationships in your life that are meaningful to you and you can't share them. Especially, here in Florida, we have our governor trying to pass the don't say gay laws. And so you have people that have these loving relationships and they can't talk about it. And that's very stifling. So, and through a lot of reasons, with my mental health really started to suffer. I think that was a slow burn of just a number of factors over the course of the past few years. Decided to leave the insurance industry, and I didn't know exactly what I was going to do yet, but I know I wanted to focus on something that allowed me to maintain an awareness of what my body is experiencing, because depression and anxiety is it manifests itself very much physically and not just emotionally or mentally. I knew for me, I could no longer be in the insurance industry because the focus is all, on the mental. And I needed to get into a field where I could be in touch with where my emotional place is, where my physical place is, and how to connect that with my mental place as well.
So now we are in a journey.
Yes.
Of discovery.
Yes.
Which is amazing, because I think from the last time we chatted, I'm not going to say you're a total different person, but you've definitely making the steps, and that glow comes out, right? Like you're definitely seem, and I know that you are more free. And there is something to be said about aligning everything that you are and everything that you are doing with the happiness that you want to experience. So tell me a little bit about the lessons learned in the past few weeks.
So, one of the things that I found, I'll backtrack even a little further and give you some saucy information. We'll still keep it rated PG for the sake of our audience. But, I have, it started out of a curiosity. I have gone to some fetish clubs. And the first time going to a fetish club, it was more of just like, all right, we're in this new town. Let's go check it out and see what's there. I have no idea what to expect.
I don't even know what to think about. I don't even know.
You think like dungeons and whips and chains, and it's just more like, okay, what are we going into here? And that kind of stuff, that world of like kink and bondage and pain, never anything that particularly interested me before, but I was like, I'm just gonna be curious. Let's go check it out and cross it off the bucket list. What I found though was an environment where it was filled with respect, number one. So they take you through an orientation your first time going to kind of go over all the rules. And everything comes back to respect and consent. And it is such clear communication is such a big component in that world of kink, and what I found is people of all shapes, sizes, and colors. It was like this adult Disney world of, oh my gosh, all these people are happy. All these people were in a place where there's no judgment, there's no shame. Everybody's just kind of doing their thing, wearing all sorts of interesting costumes that I had never contemplated before, doing all sorts of things that I never saw before. But they're allowing their bodies to feel good. And when you allow your body to feel good, you feel so much better about yourself as well. And within the kink community, I've seen how those kinds of environments, because again, respect and consent and communication are so paramount. I've seen how sex play can help people recover from sexual trauma, allowing people to take control of their agency. I've seen how people have recovered from body image issues because of allowing themselves to get into a place where there's no shame around sex. And also within exploring that, just the communication that it has opened up, and being in a community where you can say anything and there's not going to be any shame. And just even whether or not you do anything, just by having a place where you can say, this is what I want to do, or this is something that really turns me on, and have that in an environment where nobody's looking at you going, ew, weird. When your partner can say, okay, tell me more about that.
Yeah.
I've never felt so accepted and seen as I have until, as when my husband and I started really more openly sharing some of our fantasies.
Well, and that can also be applied on all different levels of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, communication is important, not just, by experiencing these specific scenarios that you just mentioned, but also when you take that lesson and you apply it into other areas of your life.
Yep.
It improves
Mm-hmm.
your quality of life overall.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. I mean, it's a little bit different. Never heard of that before.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it just, just like I said, it comes down to communication, and
Yes.
communication is key,
Mm-hmm.
to solve a lot of our own internal issues as well, because sometimes we just bottle them up
Oh gosh,
because
yes.
we impart judgment on ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
that can be for many different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we never let them out, so
Right.
we go back to that resentment that we were talking about at the beginning. That's
Mm-hmm.
how it's created.
And then what also happens is when we don't talk about sex, and especially I'm very passionate about age-appropriate sex education for children as well. Because when sex is something that is not talked about, both in children and with adults, you find that, okay, if you have a household where sex is not talked about at all, when a child is being abused or molested, and they're afraid to have the conversations, they're less likely to tell a trusted adult what is happening because there's too much fear around the conversation at all. When women are not empowered to learn about themselves, they don't know what's supposed to feel good. And too many women especially grow up thinking that sex is something that just happens to them. We think, okay, this is something we kind of have to accept. This is something that happens to us. And when my daughter was getting into that age where she was about to be more sexually active, I told her, I was like, I want to buy you some toys because you need to know what does it for you. Because I hear stories of women in their 40s and 50s that have never had an orgasm before. And that's really, really sad.
It's really sad.
And
it's
an orgasm, it is so much more than just a sexual pleasure. The release of dopamine and oxytocin and all the positive chemicals
makes you happier.
It makes us happier. It's so good for our well-being. It makes us feel connected to our partners. And it's just something that gets so ignored.
Yeah. And I feel we need to have this conversation with a sexologist. Well, I'm gonna find one.
Well, that's what I'm training as a sexologist.
Yeah.
So
you see what I did there? Exposed you. I exposed you.
Thank you.
Tell us all about it.
So what my practice is? So my practice is called Amory Wellness and Consulting. And so it's going to be sex education and sex coaching for individuals and couples. The sex education can take part in different ways. For instance, I'll be working with a local Pride workshop on doing kink safety workshops. And I don't mean safeties as in making sure the chains are securely bolted down. I mean in the psychological and emotional safety. Too many people think that kink is what they see in 50 Shades of Grey, which I'll just tell you, that's a bad example. Anything that happens in 50 Shades of Grey.
I love that movie, man. Don't bring it down for me. I love that movie.
Might be a great movie, but not what healthy, play should look like.
That's my girl. That when it came out, I have to make a small pause here. Every time it came out, my girlfriends and I will go to the movies and we'll just bring our wine on the back to the movies. It was a great time.
And I'm not yucking your yum, but if that was ever something you wanted to explore, if you wanted to bring that fantasy to reality, girl, talk to me. There are very safe and healthy, both physically healthy and emotionally healthy ways to go about doing that. I think there's also an important educational gap that's needed for people with chronic illnesses and disabilities. I've talked to nurses that work in survivorship programs in hospitals, and these survivorship programs help patients move back into routines of daily life. But what does that mean for your sexual needs? How does somebody that is dealing with a degenerative nerve disease such as MS still get their intimacy needs met? How do their caretakers help in addressing those intimacy needs on top of the other emotional and physical needs that they're trying to carry? So, and then also looking at from a moving that we've got that consulting and educational piece to a coaching piece. How does somebody that has sexual trauma get comfortable with being intimate again?
Yes.
How do partners that are couples that are dealing with some levels of sexual dysfunction, how can they learn how to enjoy each other's bodies again? Yeah. Because sex is not just about this going into this, it's
right.
It is so much more, and it can be a beautiful experience in all ways that allows people to feel connected.
Yeah. So I am very proud of you. I cannot wait until I see you fully blossom on that realm. I think, if anything, this is your calling for a very long time. You're still keeping that educational side that
education's always been important.
yes. But I love that you're focusing on continuing to help people, but in a whole different way that fulfills you as an individual, right? And it's something now that you can share and that you can be open about, and you don't have to pretend be someone else that you are not, right? And I really love that.
Thank you. And really, that's really what I just I've been very intentional in not soliciting clients just yet. I still have more training and certifications to complete, but I've had clients that have just reached out to me through word of mouth, both in the community and online. And, really, I just want to be a safe space for people to talk about what their fantasies are. And sometimes, one of my lines that I heard an instructor say that I love is, the erotic mind is not politically correct. We can't always control what turns us on. And sometimes what turns us on is going to be stuff that's not socially acceptable. That's okay. How do we take what your fantasy is and move that into a safe reality that is in line with your values and, ethical standards? So I'm very excited about being that for people.
I mean, I'm processing a lot of information right now, of course, because I think this is the first time we kind of talk deep into, everything that has to do with your lifestyle and what, goes into it. But I think the more we make this conversation, we normalize these conversations, I think the easier it's going to become. And I think also it is important for us to educate ourselves, regardless of what our choosing is. If you, if you believe in monogamy or not, or, you're lesbian or gay or Latinx, or you just, or whatever it is that you choose at this moment in time, like, everybody just wants to be happy, right? So embrace that happiness, and I think, normalize the conversation, because regardless of, we always have to do, and we always have to strive to surround ourselves with people that can support our happiness and our own mental health, right? And I applaud you for taking such a big step, difficult step, because it took a lot of courage for you to do this. And I don't think people understand, coming from where you come from, the industry that you come from, to take that step. It's something that not a lot of us will be able to, like, kind of do. I'm just gonna say do, because I can't find any other words.
And I think, the main thing, and I know we're running low on time, but the main thing that I just wanted to help people understand is that our self, our true self, is a connection between our mind, our emotions, and our body. We live in a society that elevates mind and logic above everything else. And even as we start talking about emotions, we're always trying to rationalize emotions.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you think about, to use an analogy, when you're lost in a city, you pick up your phone, and in order for Apple Maps or Google Maps to tell you where you are, it's triangulating your location based on 3 cell phone towers. If one of those towers is down, you're not really going to know where you are. Yeah. Similarly, to understand who we are, we need to triangulate that relationship between the mind, the emotions, and the body. And that's really kind of the whole theory behind holistic sex education. It's not just about the mechanics. It's not just about the anatomy. It's not just about here's how to use this kind of whip, but it's about understanding how our sexuality connects to the rest of our lives. Yeah. And being able to incorporate that and being proud of that is and also, as someone who's struggled with a lot of severe depression and anxiety, and I'll tell you, if I'm so glad that I've, had a healthy sex life along the way.
Yeah.
Because it's kept me sane.
Yeah, it helps. It helps. Well, thank you so much, Kat. I really appreciate you being here today, sharing your story, sharing what is that we're going to see more of you in the future. And thank you for just, having the difficult conversation with me here, which is like, I'm going to be just this texting bot in the next 7 days. Like, how about this, Kat? How about this, Kat?
And I'll just let you know, one thing you don't ever have to worry about is there's no such thing with TMI anymore. Every day at the gym, I have someone coming up to me telling me all about their sexual stuff. I'm like, okay, cool.
Great. Love it. Well, this was Kat Ferris and Monica Duani at Alive with Transcend with M. I hope that you all enjoyed it, and I know that you can learn a thing or two. So if you want to talk to Kat, make sure that you reach out to her. She's on LinkedIn and Instagram, on Facebook. And then where can they reach you, Kat?
So again, like you said, you can reach me at LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. My email address is kat@amorywellness.com, and I'll make sure to put that
on the comments below.
On the comments, yes.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Have an amazing Thursday.
Thank you.